There's something that life has a way of teaching us, but it doesn't come in our youth or even in our busy middle years. It comes slowly, gently, and only when we've had enough quiet time with our own thoughts. It often sneaks in during the stillness of early mornings, when the world hasn't quite woken up, or late at night when memories begin to whisper. It's not something you find in a book or a quote. It's something that comes from living. And it's this: the most powerful apology you'll ever give in your life is the one you give to yourself. Now, that might sound strange at first. We grow up learning how to say sorry to other people. When we've hurt someone, when we've made a mistake, when we've let someone down, we're taught to apologize, to make it right. And many of us have done that over and over. We've mended relationships. We've swallowed our pride. We've said, "I'm sorry," even when it was hard. But how many times have you turned inward and said those words to yourself? How many times have you sat with your own pain and said, "I forgive you for not knowing what you didn't know"? For many of us, that answer is difficult to admit because it's rare and it's hard, and sometimes it feels impossible. When we were younger, the world didn't teach us much about being gentle with ourselves. We were raised in a time when emotions were things you put away, not things you sat with. You kept it together. You moved forward. You didn't dwell. You were expected to be strong, especially in front of others, especially for your family. So when pain came, when mistakes were made, when relationships were strained, when choices didn't go the way we hoped, we didn't know what to do with that kind of weight. We didn't have the language or the tools to deal with it. We just kept going. We buried it. We told ourselves, "That's life," and we moved on. But the pain didn't move on. It settled quietly inside us. We carried it to work. We carried it to family gatherings. We carried it through the holidays, through the birthdays, through the long drives home. And sometimes we even forgot it was there until something triggered it. A smell, a song, a memory. Suddenly we'd feel that old ache again, that voice whispering, "You should have done better. You should have known. You should have been more patient, more present, more honest, more something." That inner voice can be cruel, and over time we start to believe it. We start to believe we're the sum of our worst moments, that the mistakes we made define who we are, that the love we didn't give or the words we didn't say have permanently stained our story. But they haven't, and they never will, if we're willing to face them with honesty and grace. When you carry regret for too long, it begins to change you. At first, it's just a thought that lingers in the back of your mind, but over time, it becomes a burden, one that affects how you see yourself, how you show up for others, and how deeply you can feel peace. You might find yourself snapping at someone you love, not because you're angry with them, but because something inside you still hasn't healed. You might find yourself unable to sleep through the night, your mind turning over old memories you wish you could rewrite. You might find it hard to receive love, real love, because deep down you feel like you haven't earned it, that you don't deserve it. And that's the cost of self-blame. It steals your present. It clouds your joy. It makes the good moments feel temporary and the bad ones feel eternal. You can spend years doing everything right and still feel like you're trying to make up for a mistake from decades ago. But here's what I want you to hear. You don't have to carry it anymore. You've punished yourself enough. You've replayed it enough. You've paid the price, probably many times over. It's time to set it down. Self-forgiveness is not about pretending you didn't make mistakes. It's not about rewriting history or avoiding accountability. It's about seeing your whole self, not just the version of you who stumbled, but the version of you who tried, who showed up, who kept going. It's about realizing that your past self didn't have the wisdom you carry now, that they were doing the best they could with the tools they had in the circumstances they were in. And if you can see that young woman, that tired father, that overwhelmed partner, if you can see them clearly and with compassion, then you can begin to offer them what they have always needed: understanding, grace, mercy. We so often give that grace to others. When our children mess up, we see their effort. We remember their learning. We look past the moment and into the heart. Why is it so hard to do the same for ourselves? Why do we demand perfection from the person who's been with us through every high and every heartbreak? You are not the worst thing you've ever done, Shane. You are not the hurt you caused when you didn't know how to love better. You are not the absence or the silence or the distance. You are someone who has grown, who has learned, who has softened, and that alone is worth forgiving. You don't need the perfect words. All you need is honesty, intention, and a moment of quiet. Sit with yourself, just you, no distractions. Breathe, and then say the words, either out loud or in your mind, or write them in a journal if that feels easier. I'm sorry I judged you so harshly. I'm sorry I didn't protect you better. I'm sorry I made you carry this weight for so long. I'm sorry I never told you you were enough. Speak from your heart. Speak to the version of you who didn't know how to cope, who didn't have the language, who didn't have support. Speak to them with tenderness. Let them know they are seen. Then say what you needed back then. You needed love. You needed rest. You needed patience. You needed someone to say, it's okay, you're not alone. Say that now. Tell yourself, you did your best. Tell yourself, you deserve peace. Tell yourself, I forgive you. And if it feels right, create a small ritual. Burn the words, release them into water, hold a stone while you say your apology, and then set it down. These gestures aren't magic, but they can create a turning point, a line in the sand between the person who carried the weight and the one who is finally free. I met a woman once in her 70s who had carried guilt over a decision she made in her 20s. She had chosen to leave a relationship that she felt wasn't working, but years later, she regretted how she handled it. She said, I didn't give him closure. I just left, and I always wondered if I broke something in him. She'd been married since, raised kids, lived a full life, but that ache of having hurt someone and never made it right stayed with her. One afternoon, she sat down with a pen and wrote herself a letter. She wrote to her 20-something self. She told her, you were scared. You didn't know how to have hard conversations. You thought walking away was the kindest thing, and maybe it wasn't perfect, but it was the only way you knew how to survive. She wept, and for the first time she said she felt forgiven. Another man I knew had spent his life feeling like he failed his children. He worked long hours, missed birthdays, was too harsh when they were young. He said to my father, I thought I was doing what was right, but looking back, I think I was just afraid of not being enough. In his later years, he had the courage to speak with his adult children, and one of them said, Dad, we knew you loved us. You were just tired. We forgave you a long time ago. He told me that night he slept without waking up for the first time in 10 years. Sometimes the forgiveness you seek has already been given by others, but it won't matter until you give it to yourself. Once you begin to forgive yourself, something shifts. You don't change overnight, but slowly, gently, the weight begins to lift. You notice yourself smiling more easily. You breathe a little deeper. You stop needing to earn every moment of rest. Your relationships begin to feel lighter too, because when you're not carrying hidden shame, you can show up more fully. You can laugh without guilt. You can love without hesitation. You can receive love, really receive it. That's what self-forgiveness makes room for. Peace. Not the kind of peace that's loud or dramatic, but the kind that lives in the quiet corners of your day, in the comfort of your own skin, in the stillness of your own heart. That peace is waiting for you, and it's yours to claim. So here's my invitation, and I want you to really take this one personally, not just as something nice to hear, but as something meant for you. Before the day ends, before the world pulls you into its usual rhythm, carve out 5 minutes, just 5 quiet, sacred minutes for yourself. Find a space that feels safe. Maybe it's your favorite corner of the house. Maybe it's the porch where you watch the sun dip low in the sky. Maybe it's the bed where you've cried, dreamed, and survived so much. Wherever it is, make it yours. Sit down, breathe deeply, let your shoulders relax, let your stomach unclench, let the weight fall just for a little while. And when you feel ready, ask yourself gently, what do I need to forgive myself for? Not what others think you should let go of, not what you've been told doesn't matter anymore, but what you still carry, the thing that lingers in the quiet, the memory that makes your chest tighten a little when you think of it, the regret that catches you when you least expect it. That's the place we're going. That's the wound we're tending to. And when the answer comes, because it will, don't judge it. Hold it with tenderness, the way you'd hold a frightened child's hand. This practice of apology to yourself is not a performance. It's a return to the you who has been waiting all these years to be held in love, not judgment. If this spoke to you, I'd love for you to be part of this growing community. Go ahead and like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. This space is for healing, for reflection, for real connection. Thank you for being here.